Imagine two people leaving the same bank on the same day. The first woman just signed a car loan agreement, an imported car, with installments that will consume almost a third of her income for the next 5 years. She leaves, smiling, keys in hand, already thinking about which photo she'll post first. The second person left a little earlier. She went there to renegotiate an old debt, paid it off with a discount, and even left with money left over. She drives a 7-year-old economy car. Nobody will post a photo of that. Nobody will congratulate her on social media. But here's the question that will bother you throughout this entire video. Which of the two is richer? I'm not talking about appearances. I'm not talking about what it looks like. I'm talking about real wealth, financial freedom, being able to sleep without waking up in the middle of the night thinking about bills. And the answer, when you understand the mechanism behind it, completely changes the way you see money. There's a financial skill that almost no one talks about. It's not portfolio diversification. It's not stock analysis. It's a much simpler and much more powerful skill. It's the ability to appear less wealthy than you are, or depending on where you are now, to appear less indebted than you seem. This has a name, and it comes at a price when you ignore it. Rule 1, visible consumption is the tax no one tells you about. Have you ever stopped to think about why you feel like buying certain things? Not everything. Those specific things. The sneakers everyone's wearing, the car in a segment above what you need, the trip to the destination everyone's posting about this month. Research on consumer behavior in Brazil shows that a significant portion of purchasing decisions do not stem from a real need. They arise from comparison. You saw someone with something, you felt something. And that something has a name. It's the social demonstration effect. The mechanism works like this. Humans are social animals who use material possessions as a sign of status within the group. This is not weakness, it's biology. For millennia, demonstrating resources was a way to ensure survival, attract partners, and climb the hierarchy. The problem is that the environment has changed, but the brain hasn't. And today, this instinct is being systematically exploited by entire industries of marketing, advertising, and product design. Every time you buy something to look a certain way, you're paying an invisible tax. A tax not to the government, but to the illusion of an image. And this tax, unlike income tax, is paid with your future wealth. Appearing poor in this context doesn't mean humiliating yourself. It means refusing to pay that tax. Rule 2. Real wealth is invisible by definition. Here's a truth that will seem obvious after you hear it, but that most people act as if they don't know. Every time you see someone with a truly expensive item, you're not seeing wealth. You're seeing what the person chose to spend it on. Think about it. The imported car in your neighbor's garage might be financed over 72 months. The designer handbag might have been bought on a credit card in installments. The spacious apartment might have a mortgage that consumes half of the couple's income. What you see is the consumption. What you don't see is the liabilities. Surveys on Brazilian household debt consistently show that a significant portion of the population that appears to have a high standard of living is, in practice, financially compromised for years. The country has one of the highest debt rates on the continent, and much of this debt is not due to a lack of money, but rather to an excess of appearances. True wealth, the kind that generates freedom, that allows you to choose how to use your time, that creates security in times of crisis, that wealth is almost always invisible. It lies in investments that no one sees, in savings that don't show up in photos, in paid-off properties that never become a topic of conversation, in companies whose owners you would never know are owners. This is no coincidence. It's strategy. Rule 3. The anchoring effect of appearance holds you in place. Here begins the most important part, and also the most uncomfortable. When you start building an image of prosperity, you create a silent trap for yourself because the people around you begin to have an expectation of you, and you start making financial decisions not based on your reality, but based on that expectation. Consider this. You started earning a little more and bought a new car. You moved to a bigger apartment. You started going to more expensive restaurants. People noticed. They started inviting you to events of that caliber. They began to have a reference point for what you need as a gift, what you do on vacation. And now, subconsciously, you feel you can't go back. This has a name in behavioral psychology. It's the escalation of commitment to a constructed identity. You're no longer just spending money. You're defending a narrative about who you are. And you know what's cruel about this story? You'll keep paying for the character even in months when you can't. You'll pay in installments, you'll use savings, you'll stop investing to maintain appearances. Because ruining the image seems scarier than ruining the budget. Looking poor breaks that cycle before it swallows you whole. It's not about hiding. It's about not creating a gilded cage you can't escape. Rule 4. The case of Raphael and Simone. Let me show you this principle in action in real life, with two fictional characters representing trajectories you've probably seen in someone close to you. Raphael and Simone are the same age, worked at the same company for years, and left with similar salaries at age 30. The difference starts right there. Raphael decides it's time to live well. He changes his car, rents an apartment in a more upscale neighborhood, starts going out more, traveling more, and making more public appearances. It's not malice, it's genuine. He worked hard and thinks he deserves it. And the problem is that he's spending 94% of what he earns. Very little is left over, but the image is beautiful. Simone makes the opposite choice. She lives in a smaller apartment than she could afford, keeps the car she already had, and refuses invitations that don't fit her budget without drama or explanation, simply saying, "It's not possible this time." She saves and invests between 25% and 30% of her rent every month, without exception. 10 years later, Raphael still has the apartment, the car, the Instagram stories, but he has accumulated very little wealth. Any unforeseen event turns into a crisis. He doesn't have the freedom to quit his job, to start a business, to take care of a family member. He's trapped in a comfortable trap. Simone has assets that represent years of freedom. She could work for pleasure, not out of obligation. She could go 6 months without income and not feel it. She could take calculated risks at work because she doesn't depend on her next paycheck to survive. The difference between the two wasn't talent, it wasn't salary, it was a choice of appearance. Simone chose to appear less, and she accumulated more. Rule 5. How to separate frugality from misery. Here, I need to make an important pause because there's a common misconception that people have, leading to the wrong conclusion. Looking poor doesn't mean living badly. It doesn't mean giving up everything that's good. It doesn't mean punishment. It means one very specific thing: spending where it makes sense for you, and not spending to maintain the perception of others. There is a huge difference between someone who doesn't travel because they can't afford it, and someone who goes to a simple inn because they believe the experience is worth more than a 5-star hotel. There is a difference between not eating well because you're short on money and eating at home because you prefer to invest what's left over. There's a difference between not having a good car due to lack of resources and maintaining a functional car because the resources are being used to build something bigger. Intelligent frugality is based on personal values. Misery is based on a lack of options. Well, what we're talking about here is the first group, the person who has options and consciously chooses not to display them. Research on subjective well-being shows something counterintuitive. Above a certain level of comfort, increased visible consumption does not proportionally increase feelings of happiness. What increases long-term satisfaction is the feeling of control over one's own life, financial security, and the quality of relationships. None of these three things needs to appear expensive to exist. The liberating question is simple. Are you buying this for yourself or for the image people have of you? Rule 6. The silent privilege of not having to prove anything. The time has come for the most important turning point in this script. There's a type of wealth that the richest people in the world consistently demonstrate, and that people trying to appear rich can never imitate. It is the wealth of not needing to prove anything to anyone. You've probably met someone like that before. The person who arrives at a business meeting without an expensive watch, without designer clothes, without any outward sign of status, but who has an authority that no one questions. Or the family that has lived in a simple house for decades in a quiet neighborhood, and only later do you discover that they have considerable assets. Or the businessman who drives an economy car and, when someone comments, replies that the car is just for getting from one place to another. These people share one characteristic. They have severed the link between their identity and the possessions they own. They know who they are without needing others to verify what they have. This creates a type of freedom that consumerism can never buy. You stop making financial decisions based on what others think. You stop working overtime to maintain a certain image. You stop feeling ashamed when you can't keep up with a certain spending pattern. You start making genuine choices, not performance-driven ones. And you know what's paradoxical? The less you need to prove you have it, the more you tend to actually accumulate. Because all the energy that would be spent on appearances is now directed towards building. This is the silent privilege of appearing poor, the freedom to actually become rich. Let's go back to the two people leaving the bank. The woman who left with the keys to the imported car will arrive home, post the photo, receive the comments, and feel the dopamine rush of recognition for a few days. Then you'll look at the payment and do the math, and you'll realize that that feeling has a very short lifespan and a very long cost. The one who left with her debt paid off and money in her pocket won't post anything. She has nothing to post, but she'll arrive home with a different kind of lightness. The lightness of someone who made the right choice without an audience. Money is silent when it's working for you. It's noisy when it's being used to impress. And in the end, the question isn't how much you have. It's what you do with what you have when nobody's watching. because it is precisely there, away from the eyes of others, that real wealth is built. And perhaps the most honest question you can ask yourself today is this: would you make your most recent financial decisions the same way if no one ever knew about them?